we'll have our second talk session. So for the second talk session, I would like to introduce our second speaker, Dr. Nur Fazil Hatun binti Manap, who also from University of Nusantara, Malaysia. So Doctor holds the PhD for Integrated Environmental Management course, and she has years of experience in environmentally sustainability constructions and also in integrated environmental management, which I believe she can have a great sharing with us regarding the field of energy consumption, energy sustainability. Let's welcome Dr. Nur Fazil Hatun.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good morning. Okay, I hope that you can hear me well. All right. If you have a problem, then just shout out. I can see here in the live session, we have 9 viewers, and I hope it's going to, yeah, you can shout out any question there, or the moderator can help me to, to read the question to me. Okay, so let me share my slide first. Okay, share screen. Okay, I hope you can see this. Can you see this? Moderator, can you see this? Can you see my slides? Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to start. So I have been contacted by Mr. Chong last week, saying that okay, you are invited to give a talk about responsibilities lie in our hands, and he gave me a theme, okay, that called preservation and conservation of the environment. Okay, and if you look here, the theme is quite broad. So I was thinking like, okay, how am I going to catch all the attention of the audience by having that broad theme? And I tried to Google where I can get information about how to scope in my talk for today. But then it really I think it's given me a hard time. Then I was thinking like I better have some talk that really close to my heart. And I thought that okay, why not I share with my fellow friends. I graduated from UTM 20 years ago, so UTM is my alma mater. And in fact, when Mr. Chong sent me an email, I was very happy that my fellow friends from UTM is actually contacting me for me to give like a talk about this saving the earth. Yeah, and I hope you can hear and you can see my slides here and you can hear me very clearly. Okay, but before I start my presentation today, let me introduce myself to you. Like what moderator said just now, my name is Nur Fazil Hatun binti Manap, and I'm a senior lecturer at the Construction Management Department at the University of Nusantara, Malaysia. I've been there since 2007. There, I mean, in UTHM, I am a senior lecturer, and I started my work from tutor, where I have been trained and I've been sent to many places to complete my tertiary education. So I have a PhD in environmental research from the Centre for Environmental Policy at the Imperial College London, and that was I think I graduated in 2013, so you can count how many years there since I finished my PhD. And I just got back from the same center also, the Center for Environmental Policy, for my postdoctoral research. And I went there for I think 2 years, 1 year and 11 months. So yeah, quite a number of time I spent there in Imperial, specifically at the Center for Environmental Policy. So I went there, okay, just to get the idea of why the reasons that I'm doing the things that I'm doing now. Like I am attached to the construction department, construction management department. So there we have lots of things that requires us to do research and to share our knowledge in terms of the application field, in terms of the application of whatever that we have in our expertise. My background is in civil engineering. I graduated at UTM back in 2003 with Bachelor of Civil Engineering, and I did my Master of Engineering Management at University Putra, Malaysia back in 2008. So in terms of having the reason why I do what I did, especially at the construction management department, I have to have the knowledge of the reason why I want to do things. So that's why I did my PhD in the environmental research, and I did my postdoctoral research there at the Imperial College London. So before I joined UTHM, I'm also an engineer, an engineer at a couple of construction companies, including Malaysian Maritime and Dredging Corporation, Dr. Nick and Associates Sinan Berhad. And I am also a research I was also a research assistant and a lecturer part-time at the UTM Kuala Lumpur. 19 years ago, where I teach civil engineering diploma students in engineering drawing. So my background is actually closely knit to UTM, where you guys coming from. So yeah, the thing is, we have to have in our mind, okay, that the Earth is what we all have in common, and we only have one Earth. If you can see there are so many planets, then it is inhabitable, as habitable as what we have here in Earth. So we have the responsibility to take care of where we live, which is the Earth. So today I'm trying to unravel whatever that I have in my mind from what I learned from my tertiary education, and try to relate it to you guys through these 5 main outlines that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to start with introduction, and then I'm going to share with you guys what I did for my PhD, which is related to dredging sediments, which come from my experience as an engineer at the Malaysian Maritime and Dredging Corporation, and also from my postdoctoral studies, where I did a research in plastic pollution. And then I'm going to conclude, and we are going to have a Q&A session after that. So okay, so I've been given, like I mentioned, I have been given a theme, which is the preservation and conservation. So I think even though that I'm not well known, I'm not been informed about the background of my audience today. But I guess you guys having the subject of you are learning in the subject of community and science. So preservation and conservation is one part of it. Okay, so I'm not going to go this like a usual class, a lecture. So because whatever that I'm sharing with you guys is from my own experience that is very close to my heart, which I did my PhD and which I did my postdoctoral studies. So if you can Google what is the preservation and conservation, there are lots of information saying that these two are actually similar but different. So I was thinking like, okay, when I prepare my slides, I was thinking like, okay, it is similar but different. How is it? At that point of time, I haven't realized that, okay, what I did for my PhD is a preservation, and what I did for my postdoctoral is conservation. Because most of the time we go along the way, and then we understand it, and then we try to put or coin a word that relates to whatever that we are trying to do at that current moment. So so if you can see in my slide here, okay, the preserve, which I did for my PhD, it relates to the definition of protects the environment from harmful human activities. So if you can see the picture here, there's a menthol and there is a tree inside that menthol. So it means to say that whatever that we are doing, okay, as we are a developing nation, Malaysia is a developing nation, so we need to develop, okay, in order for us to improve the quality of life. So so in the meantime that we are developing, we need to preserve the environment while doing it, while developing. So I can relate this with my PhD studies. That comes from the experience that I gained from working as an engineer at the Malaysian Maritime and Dredging Corporation, where I was a civil engineer there back then. And then that is the preservation part. Conservation part. Conservation part, okay, if you try to look at the definition, conserve means protects the environment through responsible use of natural resources. So in the picture that I'm showing you here is a picture of lots of things that can be recycled, including plastic, including papers, including tin, whatever that you have inside your dustbin or inside your garbage bin. So I'm coining it, okay, I'm putting a name for it as conserve, because what I did for my postdoctoral relates to the plastic pollution. So yeah, that is what I'm going to talk along the way, okay, up until the end of my presentation for today. Okay, so like I mentioned, I did my PhD starting from 2010 up until 2013 at the Center for Environmental Policy under the Professor Nicholas Valvalis at the Center for Environmental Policy, Imperial College London. So what I did is I used whatever that I know when I was working with Malaysian Maritime and Dredging Corporation, and then try to look at the issues that is usually being faced by us, the industry of dredging. And I can relate it to the theme for today, which is preserve. Okay, let me remind you again. Preserve means protects the environment from harmful human activities. So dredging is a human activity. It's an anthropogenic activity. So if you ask me what is dredging, dredging is the picture that I'm showing you now. Okay, it is the extraction of sediments out of the seabed or riverbed, okay, in order for the channel to be navigable, and in order for to avoid flood, like what we have in a month ago. So dredging is doing the is taking out the soil, the sediments out of the river or sea for it to become navigable, for the river or for the sea to be become navigable. So the title for my PhD is a risk-based decision-making framework for the integrated environmental management of dredging sediments. So this is the current practice. Okay, at current back in since I worked with MMDC back in 2003 up until 2007, and I know that it is still like this. It is still considered as current practice. Like you can see in this picture. Okay, there are so many ships there. Okay, doing extraction of sediments, and I think being at the UTM, which is very close to many reclamation and dredging projects, especially at the Forest City, you can see these ships, okay, doing work, okay, and yeah, it is one of the process to help the development of a waterfront, for example, okay, waterfront development, and also to help fishermen, okay, for their ships to get in, to bring in the fishes for you guys to eat, okay, and for us to eat. Okay, so this is the current practice, and like you can see, okay, even though that it looks like okay one ship doing one thing, but if we dig deep into it, okay, it is not that simple. Okay, it is not that simple, and it damages. Okay, and in fact, when I did went to Massachusetts Institute of Technology (MIT), and I have the chance to go to the coastal research project office for the Boston River dredging they take at least 15 years to do research before they start to dredge. From my own experience, when I work with MMDC, the preliminary the preliminary things that we do when we on the pre-construction stage, it only takes like 1 year, 1.5 year, just to come up with the costing, the technical things, okay, the environmental assessment, and all of that things which is need to be done before dredging take part. Okay, so to compare to what Boston River in Massachusetts, Boston, America. So they take at least 15 years, okay, before the dredging work starts. So there is a different when we talk about the practice of the developing country and the developed country. Of course, in developing country, everything is on the go. Everything needs to be fast. So without taking a hit of the environmental processes, the environmental impacts of whatever that we are trying to do. For example, like dredging. So lots of times, okay, we can hear outcry from the environment and also from the people that is affected by the dredging projects, like what you can see here. Okay, there are so many writings about sand dredging prompts fishermen's protest, dredging at Terengganu estuary will harm ecosystem, and also one land is enough for Penang. So you can see here there are a public outcry about what is been happening in around the dredging industry, even from our own local, um, from our local public in Malaysia. So um, using my own experience also, dredging requires a very high cost. So it takes millions to do this one project that constitute of maybe perhaps 12 months of work. Okay, that requires 12 months of work. So it requires millions. So it means to say that for that size of a project, we will need a proper management, because it's not only involving costs, but also it involves the public, so that the public won't suffer to whatever that we are trying to do. Okay, so I go back to the Boston River, which take 15 years just to research. Okay, because why it takes so long? Because it has high contamination level. So in America, in developed countries, for example, like in US and in United Kingdom, they are very strict in their environmental regulations. So they have the means to identify um, what is the contamination level of the sediments, of the water, of the surroundings. So they can quantify, they can monitor whatever that they quantify, especially when they're doing dredging projects. So because of that, they are very particular, okay, when they want to do the dredging project. However, when we talk about dredging projects in Malaysia, we are quite lenient because I think maybe because of we don't have the means or to quantify whatever that is whatever that is happening in around the project of dredging. Okay, we are lacking of the scientific data. Okay, saying that okay, dredging is actually impacting the environment. So if it happens in United States, okay, it may as well happens in Malaysia also if the nature of the project that we are doing is the same, which is extracting the sediments out of the sea or out of the river. So right now I'm going to present a case study from my own PhD studies and from my own working experience. Okay, I've presented. I have presented this at MIT, United States, and also I have already presented this in Imperial College London, and I gained my PhD for this. And out of that PhD, I have published a paper back in 2016, right, in 2016 about data analysis for environmental impact of dredging. Okay, I have a couple of Q1 papers also that relates to my PhD studies, and you can search my name up and to look up what are my writings about regarding the PhD and also regarding the dredging projects. Okay, this is one of the case studies that I published in Journal of Cleaner Production. This picture shows the location of affected aquaculture farm and dredger on 2008 and of sites with metals above standard values. Okay, when I did my PhD back in 2010, I went to my old office and I copy everything, okay, and I scan everything. Everything means um, the environmental reports, the bill of quantities, okay, the technical reports, the specifications, everything I scan. I scan everything and then I digitalize everything by using geographic information system, and I come up with this particular map. Okay, this is in order for me to look at the data, okay, the big data that I collected from my old office and try to represent it back in within something that is easily understood. Okay, like we can see here, okay, this is in this picture shows the dredger location, okay, in the black square, okay, and the black square, and this is the blue one is the affected aquaculture area. This is real case, okay, this happened in 2008, and everything which is in here is based on what I found in the reports that I scanned and I copied. Okay, and what actually happens is because everything is in physical forms, okay, reports is in physical forms, in books, okay, in report forms, not in something that is easily be understood like this. Okay, so I think by having this representation, it makes us, okay, we can understand this is upstream, okay, this is upstream, and Sungai Dinding River, this is downstream. So on the left is the sea. So what happened is on 6th of October 2008, okay, there is a dredger working during this time, and after a while, okay, the aquaculture area was affected and many fishes died, okay, and it caused losses to the aquaculture farm. And I'm not saying that this because of the dredger activities. I'm trying to find what is the relationship between the activities surrounding the aquaculture farm that is affected on 6th of October. So when I try to put this data in terms of GIS, I can see that, okay, upstream of the dredger location, we have a very high number of zinc, okay, before dredging, which is on 2007. And just a couple of meters upstream of the dredger location, they have sensed two metals, which is zinc, which is very high. And down below of the dredger location, they have arsenic, and they have copper, and also mercury. So this all comes from the reports that I've gained from my previous employer, saying that, okay, we cannot see it in reports, but when we put it in terms of GIS like this, so we can see, oh, maybe perhaps the aquaculture area farm was affected due to the rise of the metals, the heavy metals that was disturbed during dredger activities. So when dredging being performed, okay, like you can see here, okay, so this is when dredging was performed. So like you have a glass of water, a glass of water, then you put a couple of sugar inside it. What you do if you want to have that water to taste sweet is you take a spoon and then you kacau it lah. Okay, you stir the water so that the water becomes sweet. So the same thing happens when dredging project. Okay, so the spoon can relate to the excavator arm here. Okay, it means to say that it's going to scoop a soil or a sediment and put it on a barge. So what happened is it is going to the sediment will go around the water body and affect its surroundings. So it will affect the turbidity. But the big problem is not the turbidity level, but the heavy metal, the heavy metal, the sediments that contain heavy metals. Okay, we know the heavy metals won't affect that much, but it will when it's being disturbed. Okay, it will consume oxygen. Okay, when it's consume oxygen, so it means to say that whatever dissolved oxygen in around that area will be decreased. So that affect in around the area of the dredging activities. For example, like the affected aquaculture area. It is not toxicated. The fishes are not toxicated, but they died. The toxicity analysis showed that they died because of the because there are lack of dissolved oxygen. I think perhaps, okay, maybe having this research, it adds up, okay, to the scientific data, for us to have a knowledge that, okay, before we do any development projects, we need to quantify whatever that we can quantify so that we can continue monitor, okay, the effects of whatever development projects that we are currently doing. Okay, that is one case study. So I did my part as a PhD study, and I did my part as a tutor at a point of time when I did my PhD, a tutor at UTHM. So I come up with 3 options using my experience and my knowledge. Okay, and I come up with 3 options saying that, okay, we cannot stop the dredging projects, but maybe perhaps we can have options, sustainable option. Okay, which one is the best option to do this development project? Okay, so I have option 1, which is we are going to have 2 trailer hopper suction dredges and the dredge sediments to be dumped offshore. Okay, and then the second option is perhaps we can have 1 trailer hopper suction dredger, 1 cutter suction dredger, and we install silk curtain and all the dredge sediments to dump inland disposal and offshore to be used environmental preservation here while we are doing this development project. Okay, so like you can see the silk curtain, and this is where the confined land disposal are we propose to have. Okay, so the third option is not to do any dredging at all. Okay, and then when I analyze using multi-criteria decision analysis, okay, and I analyze from the terms of technology, economy, environment, and management also, okay, I identify that the second option is the best option. It's not biased because the weights are all the same. Okay, when I did the MCDA, the weights that I put here is everything is the same. Okay, so I analyzed, I found out that the option number 2, where the injection of the environmental preservation is being input inside the option number 2, which we have the silk curtain and we have the confined land disposal, is the best. in terms of economy, technology, and environment. So that is how I, as a PhD student and as a tutor at UTHM and also a citizen of Malaysia, do my part, do my responsibility, using my experience and my knowledge, okay, and I put it into research that try to help our nation back, okay, so that we can preserve the harmony of what we have right now. So that is my PhD study. When I talk about conservation, so I've been given, like I said, I've been given by Mr. Chong, okay, to talk about preservation and conservation. So this part is about conservation. Okay, when I did my postdoctoral studies at the same Center for Environmental Policy, Imperial College London, under the supervision of Professor Nicholas Walvis, a very well-known environmental management expert. Okay, I did a plastic pollution. I was being advised by him, saying that, okay, Atun, you need to look upon whatever that you've been doing since forever. That means to say that my postdoc supervisor says, okay, that you need to look at something new. So at that point of time, the hot thing in 2019 was the plastic pollution. So everyone is talking about plastic pollution. Even in Malaysia, they've just created a plastic pact, and they just started the notion of plastic pact under the ex-minister, Mr. YBO. YBO. So they even have a policy a year before, okay, talking about single-use plastic. So when I went for my postdoctoral studies at the Center for Environmental Policy, Imperial College London in early 2019, and I did some research. Okay, everyone is talking about plastic pollution, so why not? I haven't touched this particular thing never before. Though that one of my not one, I think 2 or 3 of my students actually use plastics, use plastic waste, for example, like plastic bottle inside of their concrete. As concrete is one of the construction materials. So what they did is actually they put everything, the plastic bottle, they cut it up until a very small pieces, and they put it in the mixture of concrete to lessen the use of aggregates. So that the aggregates is the natural resource, so we need to bomb a hill in order for us to get the aggregates. So instead of bombing another hill and waste a very useful land, why not we change it to something that is a waste, which is plastic bottles, and we put it into the concrete. And it ended up, the research that I did with my 3 students before I went to the Imperial College London for my postdoctoral studies, it shows that, yeah, the strength of the concrete is acceptable to be used in the market. It's just that when I went for my postdoctoral studies, and I've met a couple of experts, including my supervisor and also an expert from the civil engineering faculty, saying that, okay, instead of you cut the pieces, cut the plastic bottle into pieces, why not you liquidize it? Okay, liquidize it means you need to have it burned, or you need to have some gasification in order for it to be liquidized. So instead of using it to replace aggregate inside the concrete mixture, I can use the plastic that have been liquidized to become a cement. Instead of replace the aggregate, I replace the cement. But at the back of my mind, saying that, okay, that point of time in 2019, I was thinking like, okay, if you are going to liquidize plastic, then you need to have a proper. You cannot just burn the plastic, because it's going to have lots of asap. That asap, I don't know in English, that asap contains lots of toxic materials that if we inhale it, then it can become, it makes us have cancer. It has been proven. Okay, if you inhale something that is burned quite a long time, okay, it can cause you to have cancer. So I was thinking like, okay, why not we have a proper system. If you want to use pyrolysis, if you want to burn, if you want to incinerate the plastic for it to be liquidized, then we need to think of how are we going to use the asap and turn it back into energy. So we need a lot of experts in order for us to have this technology in hand. Um, I think in African countries they have done this, and in India even they burn the plastic and then they put inside all the materials, the aggregates. Okay, um, the sand into that liquidized plastic, and then they can make it as a construction material. But uh, we cannot, if we have the knowledge of, okay, this can make us sick, then we will think of like, okay, we need to do something else to use back whatever that is been produced by the incineration process, or that can help us to protect our health also. So at a point of time when I did my postdoctoral studies, I was looking at not only from the bird eye perspective, means to say that I'm not trying to look at the policy perspective, the strategic perspective of plastic pollution, but also from the ends perspective, means to say that I'm trying to look at the technologies that can be used to make it a better life cycle of the plastic, and so that we can use the plastic, use the natural resources to make plastic as responsible as we can. Okay, so this is my postdoctoral studies title. Okay, reducing the impacts of plastic pollution: the blueprint for a new plastic circular economy. So plastic was made from, plastic is made from the main ingredient of most plastic material is derivative from crude oil and natural gas, which is natural resources. So whatever that we get from the crude oil, okay, we turn it into plastic. I'm not a chemist. Okay, I'm not. My background is not that. My background is in civil engineering. So what I know is, yeah, what I know here. Okay, so we use plastic as packaging, and also the packaging, mostly as packaging of our things that we bought from the store or from the restaurant or whatever. Okay, so it had been said, no, before that, in Malaysia, with over 1,300 plastic manufacturers, Malaysia is one of the largest plastic production industries globally. So Top Glove is one of the biggest plastic producer, and it is Malaysian. It is Malaysian. So by having the big company of plastic situated in Malaysia, it means to say that we are manufacturing lots of things from plastic, and we consume, as Malaysians, we consume plastic as well. So less than 1 million tons of mismanaged plastic waste per year have been detected by Chen et al. In 2021. So it means to say that there are lots of plastic there. If you can go to any rivers, in Klang River, I went there in 2017. I bring my students to look at the location of our project site at that point of time, and I was shocked by the amount of garbage. And when I did my postdoc, I read some articles saying that in part of the name, there is an area, okay, at the sea as big as Canada that consists of plastic waste. This is at Great Barrier Reef. So there is like an island of plastic waste floating on the sea. It's like as big as Canada. So it means to say that we consume, we humans consume, and we are not using the natural resources such as plastic well, and this has actually affected the marine life. Like what you can see here, the turtle, the green turtle is actually eating and swimming in around the plastic waste, and even the sea lion here is actually trapped in one of the garbages. So it has been said back in 2016 by Ellen MacArthur Foundation that by 2050, okay, 30 years to come, there could be more plastics than fish in the sea. We are not saying only plastic that we get from the shop, okay, but we are also talking about microplastics. And microplastics is the plastic that have been, microplastic is a very small 0.2 mm, 0.3 mm, okay, plastic that we consume, even in our food, in our drink, that we cannot see. So it's very dangerous. So what I'm showing you here is the life cycle, how plastic end up in the ocean. Okay, we consume, okay, and we sometimes throw whatever that we have inside the sea by direct entry, or whatever that we put in the landfill or in our garbage bin will be taken, it will be transported by wind and rain into the stream, the fresh water, or into the ocean. Or if it is being incinerated, usually people burn garbages, especially in villages. Okay, the residue will be blown by the wind and goes into the fresh water or in the ocean. Okay, and even in our wastewater, uh, if we have microplastics in the water that we use every day, then the water that we use end up into our fresh water through the effluent, then possibly that very microplastic that comes from maybe perhaps our the Febreze or whatever, um, uh, no, but sabun basuh goes into our fresh water. Okay, and also the surface runoff, for example, like what we have just now, just a couple of weeks ago, when the flood is in, okay, when the flood, of course, if we have garbages in the, even though it's in a control area, but if we have flood, then of course all the garbages are going to be taken from one place to another, and it ends up in ocean. So sometimes if we talk about banjir termenung, sometimes if we talk about the water that isn't going anywhere, okay, the garbages, okay, can be inside the sediments which is under the water body. So if dredging comes, when the spoon, the excavator arm come to disturb that that water body, and then you can guess what happened. Everything will go all around the place. Uh, so this is actually the life cycle of the plastic waste. So when I did my PhD, we come up with 7 work packages that isn't finished, uh, because it requires financial need and financial help, and also lots of things that need to be done. But we can think of 7 things that should be done to tackle plastic pollution, especially in Malaysia. Okay, first we need to investigate sources and drivers of plastic pollution. Where this plastic pollution comes from? Is it from our own consumption in Malaysia, or did we exported it, or did we imported it come in? We need to investigate it, because back in 2019, and like I said before, we have faced lots of things that relates to plastic pollution. Even when YBU send back the trail of imported plastic garbages that cannot be recycled back into its own countries. It take a hit of time at that point of time. So apart from looking at the what we have in Malaysia, how we consume plastic, we need also to see external factors. Did we imported garbages, plastic garbages, and did we mismanage it? If you have some time, maybe you can look up for Pulau Indah. What happened there? Okay, and try to look at the public outcry about this plastic pollution that was being imported from outside. And that becomes the sources and drivers of plastic pollution. And then after we try to know what are the sources and the drivers, and then we need to look at the impacts of plastic pollution. What does it do to humans, to environment? Okay, but it is specifically for Malaysian citizens lah. Okay, the impact. So we need to look at the systems that we have in Malaysia. Did we segregate our garbages? Did we recycle? Did we have the means to manage the plastic pollution, the plastic garbages? We need to try to point out. Okay, we need to have an investigation upon this. Okay, not only on the sources and drivers of plastic pollution, but also the impacts and also the management system, the waste management systems, what we have currently. And then we need to have a place so that we can communicate whatever that we, so that we can educate the Malaysian citizen, because only through action that we can change the behavior of consumers. After we educate them, then we try to look at the effective after-use plastics economy. So this is where my expertise comes in. Okay, when I try to use plastic waste as construction material, okay, try to look at what are the things that can be done, okay, to efficiently use this plastic pollution. Okay, and after, if I can find, okay, after-use plastics economy, I maybe perhaps need to sell it. So I need to investigate. Okay, is there anyone wants to buy my recycled material that consists of my construction material? Is anyone willing to invest in it? Okay, so that is one thing to be think of. Okay, and then after all these cycles finish, then the policy that relates to plastic pollution can be end up by having a blueprint for a new plastic circular economy can be developed. Okay, like I said, okay, I have the technology. I have the policy in mind, okay, but I need also to know about the technology. So when I did my postdoctoral studies, okay, I went to Cranfield University and tried to look at the recycling technologies. Okay, and this is one part of it. Okay, residual waste plastic conversion. Okay, syngas products. Okay, and this is one thing that is currently using artificial intelligence to segregate garbages inside the disposal site. Okay, they use a robot to identify what type of plastic or what type of garbages it is. Okay, if it is PET, if it's tray, if it's card, magazine, HDPE, the robot can identify it through recognition or surface recognition, okay, using AI, and then put the garbages inside its proper site. Okay, I found also because in our waste disposal site, okay, we have food waste. So I found a technology using surface recognition also, where they use artificial intelligence to identify what types of food there is, and then how much it is actually being eaten and how much is it being wasted. So to compare whatever that I found in the United Kingdom, and to compare it with whatever that we have in Malaysia, I can say that uh, we are okay. We have the policy. We have the Malaysia's roadmap towards zero single-use plastics from 2018 up until 2030. Even Malaysia have our own plastic bag targets. It's just that we need to look on the technology that we can use, okay, to properly manage whatever plastic. But we need to start with the segregation of the waste first at the disposal site. I know in Batu Pahat we have disposal such is in construction right now, and some issues. For example, like the place is having a site which is very historical, so they need to stop it at that point of time. But that idea of having that disposal site as the W2E, okay, the waste to energy disposal site, it is a very good idea and a very good concept to work on. It's just that, yeah, we need to look at not only on how to handle the waste, but how is it going to affect us around communities. So yeah, whatever that I've shared is actually the Earth talk, okay? How to save the Earth, that's view, and how we can preserve and conserve. And I shares with you, okay, how I did, how I fulfill my responsibilities on my hand, from my PhD studies and from my postdoctoral studies to preserve and conserve the environment. So I think that's all for my presentation. You can contact me in as detailed below. Okay, you can email me if you have any discussion. If you want to have like a research project with me that you want to do, then you can just contact me through this details. Okay, you can drop me an email at pazliha@gmail.com, or you can just go to my website drnorpazlihatun.com, or you can just search for my name, Nur Pazlihatun Manap, at my YouTube channel. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you. Moderator, back to you.
All right. First, thank to Dr. Hatun for the great sharing just now. So next is our Q&A session. So we can see some of the questions from Facebook. So first is from the Mr. Tian Chai. So he says that they knows that now biodegradable plastic is widely used in Malaysia. So, but there's still the plastic pollutions caused in Malaysia. So, do the biodegradable plastics helps in reducing the pollutions, or it's actually still bringing out bad effect for the environment?
I like this question so much. Thank you, Mr. Chen, is it? I like this very much. You know, is there any research being done on saying that it is widely used? That biodegradable plastic has been widely used. I don't think that I've come up that I came upon any article saying that okay, it has been used widely in Malaysia, but not in US or in the United Kingdom. So I think this is a very good chance for you guys from UTM, from UTHM, from any universities there is, to conduct a research looking at the stage where we are at now on the biodegradable plastics. Is it widely used? How many are the companies that produce biodegradable plastics? After you know the stage or the level of our usage of that biodegradable, then we can conclude on the hypothesis whether it is acceptable or not. Yeah. If why there is still, okay, I come back to what the question is. We know that biodegradable plastic is introduced. Yes, it has been introduced, but is it widely used? Still in research in Malaysia. Why there is still many pollutions caused by plastic? That is one question. Is it just newly been introduced? So that is one good question mark. That requires research. We, a researcher in universities, need to perform this research. We need to identify first what are the things. We need to quantify first. What is the acceptable rate? What is the manufacturing rate? What is the public says about this? Are there any researchers doing that? I know there is. It's just that is it widely being researched? That is still one question need to be researched. I think by having this question being researched by us, we can answer to your future future question, Mr. Chen. This is a very good question. So the biodegradable plastic still bring up bad effect for the environment, or is it not widely used? Okay. Okay, we need to know what are the materials that consist of the biodegradable plastic also. I come back to the preserve, the conserve. Are we using the natural resources responsibly? Because everything that we consume, everything that we develop will requires us to dig up our own earth. If it comes from dig up from our own earth, did we do it responsibly? Okay, so maybe perhaps the biodegradable plastic that that you talk about is actually bring up bad effect because it has not been handled responsibly. So we as a researcher in very like yourself, very well-known university in UTM, we have the responsibility. It is in your hand to do the research. It is in our hand, okay, to identify what is actually consists of the biodegradable plastic and are we responsible towards it. Uh, okay, moderator.
I think that explains the questions. Then next is from e- Mr. Ikaya. So, what's more important to doctor, social issues or environmental problems? So
Okay.
I think the question, yeah, doctor.
Sorry, sorry, moderator. Do you have anything? Just continue whatever you have in mind.
No. I think this question is want to ask doctor on what's the major concern that Malaysia need to solve now. So
Uh,
should we more focus on social issues or in the environmental problems that we face in Malaysia?
Typically, thank you, moderator. Thank you for Mr. Kaida, okay, for the questions. Very good question. Also, I know my alma mater students are actually very brilliant. I can see it from the level of the quality of the questions that you come up. So, okay, what is more important to me, whether it's social issue or environmental problems? As you can see, my background is in civil engineering, and also my master's is in engineering management. So that part of tertiary education relates to engineering. But end up, I did my PhD and my postdoctoral studies in environmental research. Why is it? You know the question. You know the answer to that question. To me, it is finding out the reason why I want to do what I did or whatever that I want to do. Have a reason, have a split reason why I wanted to do it. For example, like plastic pollution. So if I want to do a new concrete resource or new concrete material for construction material, I need to use not for example, like I cannot use something that is easily available like rice because it's one of the food source. I cannot use something that is that requires cost, extra cost for me, like buying new things. But at the end of my mind is I need to help. I need to kill one bird. I need to kill two birds with one stone. So I need to come up with the technology. I need to come up with new construction materials by helping the social, the environmental problems of plastic pollution. So yeah, to answer to your question, Mr. Yi, the most important thing to me is the environmental problems. Okay, but at the same time, we are in Malaysia, a developing countries that we need to allow development to grow. Okay, our nation to grow. Then I need to do my part, which is to kill two birds with one stone. I hope that answers your question. Back to you,
All right.
moderator.
All right. Thank you, doctor. Then, is there any questions from others? You may comment on Facebook Live. Then I think I also have a question. So, doctor, as you can see in Malaysia now, we are actually facing a lot of mental problems, like all those plastic pollutions, forestations, river pollutions. So, what do doctor thinks that what's the next step that our country should do in overcoming all those problems that we are facing?
Okay. Thank you, moderator. Another good question. Thank
Mm.
you. So, what I can conclude to answer your question, I can only relate my answer to whatever that I've just shared with you just now. Okay, which is the dredging and another one is plastic pollution. So I can suggest things that I know very deep in my heart, which I have done research on. Okay, first, if you're talking about dredging projects that is widely being performed in Malaysia, in Kuala Terengganu, in Johor. Okay, I think the next step for us to take is actually to rely on scientific data. We need to have more scientific data that can quantify the impacts of whatever development projects that we are taking in. So if we have that quantity to monitor, then only we can manage the project responsibly, environmentally responsible. So that is one next step on dredging projects. Okay, if we are talking about plastic pollution, the next step is actually from my own point of view. I have 7 work packages to work on. So my next step is the first package, which is to investigate where this plastic pollution comes from. If you requires my, if you ask me what is the next step, we need to investigate. We need to investigate where. We need to understand, and we need to communicate. For like in the W4 W work package number 4, we need to have a place that we can communicate what we found, the impacts, the drivers, the sources, and also the management strategy, the waste management strategies that we have currently to educate the people, the citizens of Malaysia. So I think that is the two next step if we are talking about we're talking about um, dredging project and also plastic pollution. But if you ask me from my point of view, as personal point of view, okay, the next step is we need to change, revamp the way of life, our way of life right now, like what I'm doing now. Okay, I've started to my family and I have started to grow our own vegetables at our own yard. Okay, and we start to have chickens coop, okay, to have chickens in it so that we don't have to buy outside because of the increase of the price. Okay, and the thing that is actually that relates to what PM Dr. Go just mentioned, okay, about solar solar panel system. I am in the middle of installing solar panel system on my house, where I need to pay ringgit Malaysia 25,000 for that system to be installed. But this will reduce the electricity bill from 350 up until 80 ringgit Malaysia. So by having this solar panel system, even though it is the capital cost is very high, but the ROI, the return of investment, is in within seven years. So by having saving the electricity bill up until 250 per month, I can get back my investment. But that is from the financial point of view. But from environmental point of view, by having our house create the source of the electricity, so it helps us not to use the electricity that coming from the hydroelectric plant. Okay, so it means to say that there will no more dam need to be built. Okay, and there will no batu arang that need to be dig from the earth. Okay, because our own house, it is producing its own electricity that coming from the solar. Okay, so it helps in that way. So I have been given you 3 actually steps to take forward.
All right, thank you, doctor. So I think doctor have provided us some tips that everyone can do, and that's how we should contribute and help in environmental sustainability in our daily life. So I think that's all for the Q&A session. Thank you again, Doctor, for the sharing on the uh, plastic pollution and the uh, sorry, I
Dredging.
forgot about it. Yeah,
Yeah, dredging.
dredging, which actually related to a life, but we rarely taking care of. So really, thank you, doctors, for sharing your experience with us. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me, and I wish you all a happy Chinese New Year, more all this year and next year to in the future. And thank you again for
All
the
right, thank you,
opportunity.
doctor. Okay. Then next, I think we'll proceed to our quiz sessions, which we will create a Kahoot session that everyone could join through the link given in this live, and attractive prizes will be provided for the winners, for the top 6 winners in the quiz. And that's all for the talk session. Thank you everyone for joining.